Ever wondered what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? In the world of combat sports and entertainment, you don't get much bigger than The Undertaker and Chuck Norris. One is a legend of the squared circle, a phenom who dominated WWE for decades. The other is a real-life martial arts world champion, an action movie icon, and the subject of a million internet memes about his toughness. So what happens when these two titans cross paths? The story goes that The Undertaker, the American badass himself, once made the mistake of calling Chuck Norris a fake cowboy. And let's just say, he almost instantly wished he could take those words back. Today, we're diving deep into this legendary, almost mythical encounter. Did it really happen? What led to this showdown of epic proportions? And who walked away with the ultimate bragging rights? Stick around, because we're separating fact from fiction and uncovering the truth behind the day. The Undertaker learned a valuable lesson. You just do not mess with Chuck Norris. To really understand the weight of this story, we need to set the stage. Let's first talk about The Undertaker. By the early 2000s, he had shed his deadman persona and transformed into the American badass. He was riding motorcycles to the ring, sporting a bandana, and carrying an attitude that was more barroom brawler than supernatural entity. He was, in his own right, a modern-day cowboy, a lone wolf who played by his own rules. He'd faced giants, legends, and Hall of Famers. He was feared, respected, and at the absolute peak of his career. He wasn't just a character. He was an institution. The locker room looked up to him, and opponents genuinely feared stepping into the ring with him. Then you have Chuck Norris. Before he was Walker, Texas Ranger, before the internet decided he could divide by zero, Carlos Ray Chuck Norris was a legitimate, world-class martial artist. He founded his own discipline, Chun Kuk Do, and held a black belt in multiple arts, including Tang Soo Do, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and Judo. He was a six-time undefeated world professional middleweight karate champion. He didn't just play a tough guy on TV. He trained and competed against the best in the world. He even trained with the legendary Bruce Lee. So when Chuck Norris put on a cowboy hat for his iconic role as Cordell Walker, he brought with him a lifetime of real-world combat experience. He was the epitome of a man who could walk the walk. So how did these two worlds collide? The story takes us back to a WWE live event in Texas. The Lone Star State is home turf for many legends, and on this particular night, Chuck Norris was in attendance, sitting ringside as a special guest. The WWE often invites celebrities, but having Chuck Norris there, in Texas of all places, was a big deal. The crowd was electric, fully aware that a real-life action hero was in their midst. The Undertaker was in the main event, and as he made his signature entrance, he surveyed the crowd. His eyes locked onto the front row, and he saw him. Chuck Norris, looking as cool and composed as ever. Now, The Undertaker, in his American badass character, was known for being confrontational and never backing down. Seeing another famous cowboy on his turf, he decided to have a little fun. Or so he thought. As he circled the ring, microphone in hand, The Undertaker stopped and pointed directly at the movie star. The crowd hushed, anticipating what he would say. With a gravelly voice, Taker laid down the challenge. "You know," he began, "I see a lot of people in Texas wearing big hats and big boots thinking they're tough. I see you sitting there, Chuck Norris. People call you a Texas Ranger. But from where I'm standing, you just look like another fake Hollywood cowboy trying to get a piece of my spotlight." A collective gasp went through the arena. Had The Undertaker really just called Chuck Norris, of all people, a fake? The air grew thick with tension. This was no longer just a wrestling show. It felt incredibly real. The line between performance and reality had just been blurred in a big, big way. Chuck Norris didn't flinch. He just sat there, a slight, almost imperceptible smile on his face, as if he was just waiting for the right moment. The Undertaker's opponent for the night was in the ring, but suddenly he was the least of Taker's worries. The entire arena's focus was on the two icons. The match started, but it was clear the Undertaker was distracted. He kept glancing over at Chuck, who remained perfectly still. According to backstage sources, Taker was trying to work the crowd, to build some heat and create a memorable moment. But he might have underestimated just how revered Chuck Norris was, especially in Texas. The crowd wasn't booing Norris. They were starting to turn on the Undertaker. During the match, there was a spot where the Undertaker was thrown out of the ring, landing right in front of the guest of honor. This is where the story gets really good. As Taker got to his feet, he came face to face with Chuck Norris, who had now stood up. The two men stared each other down. There were no cameras filming a movie scene, no directors yelling, "Cut." This was just two legends, inches apart, with 15,000 people holding their breath. The Undertaker, still in character, got in Norris's face and sneered, "What are you gonna do about it, old man?" He gave Chuck a slight shove. It was a classic wrestling move to escalate the drama. But he wasn't shoving another wrestler. He was shoving Chuck Norris. What happened next is the stuff of legend. Without changing his calm expression, Chuck didn't throw a punch. He didn't execute a fancy movie kick. He simply raised his hand, palm open, and placed it on the Undertaker's chest. It wasn't a push. It wasn't a strike. It was just a touch. But through that simple touch, he seemed to channel an incredible amount of force. The Undertaker, a man who weighs over 300 pounds and is known for his immense power, stumbled backward as if he'd been hit by a truck. He tripped over his own feet and landed flat on his back. The arena erupted. They had just witnessed the Undertaker, the Phenom, get put on the floor by a man in his 60s with a single, non-violent touch. The Undertaker looked completely stunned. His American badass facade melted away for a split second, replaced by a look of genuine shock and, dare we say it, respect. He had just experienced firsthand the legendary power he'd only heard about. It wasn't a roundhouse kick to the face. It was a subtle, powerful demonstration that proved Chuck Norris's reputation was no joke. Chuck simply gave a slow nod, a glint in his eye, and sat back down as if nothing had happened. The message was clear. Don't mistake my silence for weakness. The Undertaker, humbled and probably a little embarrassed, scrambled back into the ring to finish his match, his mind clearly elsewhere. He went on to win, but the real victory that night didn't belong to him. It belonged to the man in the cowboy hat at ringside. After the show, the story continued backstage. Word spread like wildfire through the locker room. The Undertaker, being the respected veteran he is, allegedly sought out Chuck Norris to clear the air. He walked up, extended his hand, and said something along the lines of, "Mr. Norris, I was just playing my character out there. I have the utmost respect for you." He admitted that he had underestimated the reaction and, more importantly, the man himself. Chuck, ever the gentleman, shook his hand warmly. He smiled and explained that he understood the business of entertainment. He knew Taker was just putting on a show and held no hard feelings. He appreciated the performance. But in that handshake, a mutual respect was solidified. The Undertaker learned a valuable lesson in humility, and the legend of Chuck Norris grew even larger. It wasn't a tale of anger or a real fight. It was a story of two masters of their respective crafts, sharing a moment that blurred the lines and created a timeless piece of wrestling folklore. So, is the story 100% true? Like many legends in wrestling, it's been embellished over the years. The core event, Chuck Norris attending a show, The Undertaker confronting him, and a physical interaction happening, is widely believed to be true by those who were there. The specifics, like the exact words or the nature of the push, might change depending on who's telling the story. But the outcome is always the same. The Undertaker provoked Chuck Norris and was immediately shown why that's a bad idea, even in a scripted environment. This story endures because it's a perfect clash of personas. The American badass met the original Texas Ranger. The master of mind games was outplayed by a man of quiet confidence. It's a testament to both men. It shows The Undertaker's skill as a performer, willing to push the envelope to create a buzz. And it reinforces everything we love about Chuck Norris. A man of incredible skill who doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. He's a true martial artist whose actions speak louder than any pro wrestler's promo. The Undertaker didn't just regret it in the ring. He gained a new level of respect for the real deal cowboy. What do you guys think? Is this one of the greatest celebrity moments in WWE history? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next dive into wrestling's most legendary tales. Thanks for watching.